Fanfare has begun among government circles as the much anticipated 225 megawatt power barge from Turkey set sail en route to Ghana.
Ghana is eagerly awaiting the arrival of this vessel in our waters. We have gone through a temporary period of power challenges. But as we speak, we are almost at the end of it. Indeed, as at yesterday, another generating asset had landed on our coast, and once we have this power barge and two other projects ongoing, we can safely say we'll be generating enough power to meet our power needs.
But experts say the barge is coming at a time when it is no longer needed, as Ghanaians have already endured 3 years of an energy crisis. Imani Vice President Kofi Bento puts it this way, and I quote, "Barges are for emergency power. We are beyond emergency. So please don't worsen our case. Fix the problem with the proper surgery needed and not first aid measures." But is it really the case that we don't really need these power barges as much as we needed them badly in the first 3 years of the crisis? What difference will this first barge make in bringing Ghanaians some relief? Also, this evening, the New Patriotic Party NPP has issued a statement condemning an attack on the vehicle of its General Secretary Kwabena Japong and have agreed to replace the broken rear screen of his vehicle. This is today's big story with me, Stephen Ed. At a brief ceremony today ahead of the first 225 megawatt power barge setting sail from Turkey to Ghana, Power Minister Dr. Kwabena Donko said Ghana is eagerly awaiting the power barges to help address what he calls Ghana's temporary period of power challenges.
The government of which I am a part and led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is looking forward to more cooperation between Turkey and Ghana. In the 21st century, where distances have narrowed, our ability to marshal our resources to the mutual benefit of our two peoples must be the priority of both governments. Distinguished Minister, Your Excellencies, invited guests, Ghana is eagerly awaiting the arrival of this vessel in our waters. We have gone through a temporary period of power challenges. But as we speak, we are almost at the end of it. Indeed, as at yesterday, another generating asset had landed on our coast, and once we have this power barge and two other projects ongoing, we can safely say we'll be generating enough power to meet our power needs.
Right, let's do some discussions. Now I have Kofi Bento, Vice President of Imani, on the telephone. I also have Kojo Poku, who is an energy consultant. Both gentlemen are on the line now. Let me start with you, Mr. Bento. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I know that you and many other experts, I mean, Dr. Charles Rekubrobe has also said the same thing, that these barges are coming at a time we don't really need it. So is it to say, well, government should just cancel the agreement and send this barge back and we will still be all right?
Well, good evening again. I think that we should be careful in the analysis so we are not taken wrongly.
Okay.
All right? The points that we are making are simple. Barges are not the ultimate solution to power problems. Barges are an emergency measure. Power barges everywhere are used for emergency short-term power augmentation purposes. They are expensive. They are usually very unreliable as compared to, onshore fixed facilities like a thermal plant. So what you do is there's a band-aid. It's like first aid. If your power system collapses and you need to bridge a certain shortfall in supply, then what you do is that you go for a barge, you use it for a year maximum or 2 years, and then you fix the problem and you go back. We had a crisis which reached very critical points about 3 years ago.
That's right.
The whole country ground to a halt. Okay, everything, I don't need to go into that. At that time, we needed barges because you can mobilize and get a barge in a few weeks so that we will bridge that major shortfall over the time. That is 3 years ago. For 3 years, we've been promised barges. It's been so long, we've had to stomach the worst forms of the crisis. The industries have collapsed already. People who die have died already. And now, after, the worst part of the emergency, we are going in for first aid, which is why I use the example of, it's like saying somebody collapses in their house, they need surgery, You fail to give them, first aid, and you take them to the theater where the surgery itself will happen. Now you are trying to administer first aid in the theater when the theater is purposed for solving the problem. What we should be doing now is solving the problem properly and durably. We are not supposed to now be applying emergency measures, especially when they are extremely expensive. And when you ask the question, should we therefore ask the government to send it back? Indeed, the government should have always been on the beat. We paid for this thing less than 6 months ago. And as of 6 months ago, we had already gone beyond the emergency point. So indeed, the government shouldn't have even paid for it. At the same time, we were owing gas we hadn't paid for. And it was clear that if we did not pay for that gas, we would end up with further shortage, which is what we're experiencing. So I wonder how the decision-making is done in government.
So you think that we have a problem of misplaced priority on our hand?
It's not that simple. I think we have a problem with decision-making, generally speaking, regarding this power thing. And I agree with Dr. Okubobi when he says that this is just to fulfill a propaganda promise. They've said that badges will come, so the badges will come. I'm one of the people who asked for the badges.
That's right.
But we asked for the badges as an emergency measure. It does not mean after the emergency you should still go and bring badges when they are so expensive.
Mr. Bento, let me have you hold and let Kojo Poku join into the discussion. Mr. Kojo Poku, I'm sure you're hearing Kofi Bento's arguments, and which pretty makes sense, really, that we paid for these barges 6 months ago at a time that some industries have already collapsed, jobs have already been lost, that Ghanaians mainly have endured the terror of not having power and the subsequent outcomes of losing their jobs, etc. Should we be excited that finally the promise of bringing us barges is here?
Hi, good evening, and good evening to your listeners. I want to make before I answer your question. I think last week when Aisha interviewed me on when the minister made a press conference on where the was going to come in,
that's right.
I did say that I have a deep throat source that says that before the barge leaves, there was going to be a ceremony before the barge leaves, and I want to wait till that ceremony, then we'll all know the barge is coming. But and now I've been proven right that yes, there is a ceremony, which the ceremony was today, so every Ghanaian now knows that the barge is setting off. Now back to the question that you asked. It's a double-edged sword, really. Do we need those extra power? Yes, we do. But do we need it for 10 years? No. Like the gentleman said rightfully, power ships or power barges are emergency. War-torn areas that don't have the infrastructure and they need immediate power is where these ships go and plug in and give them stable power for a certain period. And within that period...
For a period of, say, 2 years, 3 years,
2 years,
or what?
yes, 2 years. But
maximum
you see,
2
what
years.
the problem is with this barge is that we signed it for 10 years. Okay? And the first 2 years is going to run on HFO, and then subsequently it will now be turned into a gas turbine. Now, the cost of that to our energy mix is enormous, and it's too much. And I don't think that Ghanaians can be saddled with that. And especially, I don't know what the contract says in terms of being the number of times it has to be run. So let me say that if, let's say, God being so good, the rain starts and Akosombo is at full power, are we still going to run them at power as we are being told, so that they will now be running full throttle at the same time when we have 1,000 or so from Akosombo? Now, and you now realize that, yes, we do need the capacity, because we have other industries that have scaled down their operations because there's no power. Now, when the power starts increasing, they can also now scale up their operations. But then, can they afford the cost at the scaled up? You know, so he makes a point, which is very right, which is the cost. At what cost are we going to run this barge or this warship for 10 years? If it's coming in for 2 years, whilst we put solid processes or solid generation in place, then for 2 years it makes sense. But for 10 years, I think that should be looked at again.
Right, Mr. Kojopoko, I'll have you hold and bringing Mr. Kofi Bento. So, Mr. Bento, what are your expectations with this power barge? I mean, seeing that we've signed for a longer term than is really necessary, we signed more than 2 years, more than 3 years, which should have been the ideal. What do you expect will be happening?
I think these barges are going to come in, and frankly, it will cost us about 2-3 months before we put them online. And if we put them online, I think we are going to have problems, because even now we are having two types of problems. One, we are not being able to collect enough money to finance even the existing plant. And then two, we are going to have situations where, frankly speaking, we will run into fuel problems with these barges. Okay, as we speak, we are not able to supply gas, we are not able to get, the necessary fuel for our existing plants. And then we will be paying for these barges anyway. All things being equal, okay, the cost of electricity in terms of the energy mix changing is going to go high.
Yeah.
And that is even if everything works well. So already we are going to hit a crunch. This is very easy to foresee. And if things don't work well, which, is not something that is perfect, okay, then we are going to have even more complicated problems. I hope none of these things happen. But the truth of the matter is that I don't think we are managing this thing well. And the way we are going about it just gives us more cause for worry going down.
More cause for worry.
18 months, 18 months, 1.5 years to build a thermal power plant at 400 megawatts. Okay, it's taken us 3 years to bring in these barges. Okay, so going forward, I think we do have a problem with the way this whole system is being managed. Now we are going to add extra capacity, when indeed capacity is not our problem. And this extra capacity is going to impose new, very expensive tariffs on the whole energy system. So we are increasing the complexity and the difficulty within the energy system. Solving doomsday is one thing, but solving it in a way that kills us ultimately is not the smartest thing to do. It's like using, there's a mosquito on your palm and then you shoot the mosquito and it damages, your hand as well. Right. I think we really have to get our managers to be thinking better about how to deal with this problem.
We really have to get them thinking better. Mr. Bento, we're grateful for your time on today's big story. Thanks very much. Mr. Kojopoko, you're still there, but let me quickly go back to the minister's presentation at the at the commissioning of this power barge in Turkey. He went on, actually, during his speech to make an appeal to the business community in Turkey and around the world to see Ghana as the gateway to Africa, indicating, however, that about 80% of Ghanaians have access to power. Well, I must say that that's another story for another debate, but let's first hear him.
5% of Ghanaians now have access to electricity. And so this is going to be a very valuable addition. But distinguished minister, I stand here today to urge business people in Turkey, especially those in manufacturing and heavy industries, to see Ghana as the gateway to Africa. If Asia is the continent of today, I can assure you without any shadow of doubt that Africa is the continent of tomorrow, and tomorrow begins today.
Right, so the future is today, and the future is tomorrow, and tomorrow begins today. That's what he's saying. Mr. Kojopoku, if you're there, let me break down what the minister just said, alluding to the fact that about 80% of Ghanaians have access to power. That's what he said, and then also the fact that he's calling on investors to make Ghana the gateway to Africa. Two things here: do we have that much capacity? And indeed, with our inability to maintain consistent power supply, are we really serious with this whole gateway talk?
No, we're not. I mean, every investor would do a due diligence and look at Barge, look at all the other industries that have collapsed, and know that this is just a presentation, not when, because you see, before the Westerner, or so to say, the foreigner will invest their money in the country. Yes, they will listen to what the minister says, but then they have people on the ground. They have their embassies. They have chamber of commerces. They know people that have already come in and established businesses, and it's collapsed. Now, I've always said on this platform that Ghana we want to be a manufacturing country. If we want to be a manufacturing country, the 5,000 megawatts that we want to do, which we are trying to achieve it with like 20 thermal plants all over the country, is not the way forward. Okay? We need to basically go and tackle the bull by the horn. We have to look at something tangible. And for what is worth now, most of us have done all the analysis, and coal will not work. Hydro, we've seen that there isn't enough big rivers in the country to build another Kosovo, and even if there is, the environmental challenges that we're already facing with Galamsey and all the rainfall pattern and all that. So the only tangible solution that will give you something like 10,000 megawatts or 5,000 megawatts from one source is nuclear. Okay, now I don't see why the government doesn't want to do that feasibility. We already have the Atomic Institution, and I'm sure they've done this over and over, and they have a plan. Why can't we re-engage them? So, I mean, bringing in a 225 megawatts, there's another 220 that came in, there's another 250 that's coming in. Yes, all of that is going to give you some power at a point. But you realize that you have so many inefficiencies in the system, because some are going to go down for maintenance, some are going to have fuel problems, the gas is not going to, you're going to have a valve. So there are so many inconsistencies and problems that are keyed into the system. So if we are serious about being a manufacturing industry, then we should show the out countries that we have a plan, okay, to solve this problem, not with 250 or 400 megawatts thermal combined cycle here and there, but to do something major like what Nkrumah did 50 years ago.
Right, Mr. Kojopoku, before I let you go, Kofi Bentil hit it right on the head of the nail when he said that we didn't put enough planning into ensuring that the solution is the appropriate solution, so that although we want to solve the Doomsday challenge, we don't want to kill ourselves with debts. Do you foresee that this power barge issue and the fact that government is asking for an upgrade of the second barge to 400 megawatts is really going to cost us big deal?
No, we are, yes, he's right. I mean, we are, you see, when somebody is bent on fixing a problem, the person will fix it for today. But then I don't think the planning of what happens in the long term, what are the effects of these decisions? Because you see, like I always say, you are solving yesterday's problem. So you're not really focused on tomorrow's one. What is happening, and the government is doing their best to basically solve that problem today. But by so doing, they are now not looking at the decisions that we are making today. How is that going to affect the country 5 years, 10 years from now? Okay? And that is one major problem that we're going to have. I think 5 years from now, we are going to have some white elephants in terms of some of these thermal plants that are being built now, because I don't think most of them are sustainable. Because you look at the ifs that is being put in place to put them in place. Those things might not all pan out, because most of these plants are being put in with the hope that some gas is going to come from here, and ENI is going to do this gas project, and the 10 project, they're going to get gas from there. So there's a lot of speculation in terms of where the gas to power all these thermal plants are going to come from. Now, let's say that ENI or the 10 project does not do the gas facility like what we have in the Ghana gas plant. If they don't do it, then what happens? Okay, so there is a lot of ifs, and I think that is why I have always called for a proper planning, or so to say, a committee that is tasked with not looking at today's problem, but then today's problem, how is it going to be sustained for the next 5-10 years?
Interesting, Mr. Kojopoku, we're grateful for your time. Quickly, do you think that this power barges is going to be a big disaster?
Say that again?
Do you think that the power barges and the approach to solving the energy crisis using emergency power barges will be a disaster?
No, it wouldn't be a disaster. You see, the power barge has a feed-in tariff. They've already agreed on how much they're going to pay those barges per kilowatt hour. Basically, the guys who have the barge have come to say that, look, we are doing HFO. And HFO, we think, are much cheaper than gas. The government has agreed with them on a price at which if they produce the power at that price, the government will pay. Don't know what the agreement says in terms of review of prices down the line, but as it stands now, I think government with PLC have sort of agreed and come to a conclusion that the price that these power barges or power ships, so to say, are going to give power to Ghanaians is within budget that can be afforded.
But would you agree with Dr. Charles Reku Brobe, who is calling on the president as a matter of urgency to renegotiate this agreement?
No, how can I stop? How do you renegotiate an agreement that's gone through Parliament? It's gone through Parliament, it's been ratified, and the good thing that they have as investors and as an investor who once they want to be in that position, they have a guarantee, and that guarantee is lodged in the bank. If government defaults on anything, they take that guarantee and so I don't think anybody should try and go in that line of going to renegotiate or abrogate or, that is what we've had all these judgment decks in the country.
Right.
Look, it's been negotiated. It's whether good or bad, Ghana has stamped it in Parliament. We are always blame parliamentarians that they don't do the work that we put them there to do. Parliament could have done a better job in basically scrutinizing that agreement. They did it. It's been passed. Done and sealed. Nobody should try and say that it should be abrogated or terminated or renegotiated. It's not possible.
It's not possible.
What we have has been negotiated. Let's live with it. In the future, we do something else.
Right. We are grateful for your time. Thanks very much for joining us on today's big story. Now, the New Patriotic Party, NPP, has issued a statement condemning an attack on its General Secretary, Kwabena Ejapong, who was heckled by the party's security, the Invisible Force, on Tuesday. Let me quickly read portions of the statement. And it says that the NPP condemns the attack on the vehicle belonging to the General Secretary, Kwabena Ejapong, at the party head office this afternoon. A steering committee meeting had been fixed for Tuesday, 27th October 2015, and the General Secretary brought to the notice of the meeting an application for interlocutory injunction against the meeting. The meeting, however, continued as members had not been served any restraining order. The General Secretary later on came to inform the meeting of an attack on his car downstairs, which had resulted in a crack on the back screen. Apparently, in the course of the meeting, word had gone out to the media that the General Secretary had served an injunction to stop the steering committee meeting, and that led to the attack on the back screen of his car. Shortly after the General Secretary left the office in his car, the steering committee, according to the statement, resolved to replace the rear screen of the General Secretary's vehicle. And so the party the statement continues by saying, I beg your pardon, that the party vehemently condemns the attack on the vehicle and will conduct further investigations. We're trying to raised the Director of Communications of the party, Nana Komia, onto the telephone to do a little discussions on this. And later we'll be bringing into our studio Felix Akoyama, our reporter, who was at the MPP headquarters when the incident happened, so he can give us a narrative of exactly what he saw. And moving on, we'll want to find out also from a political analyst what this means for the party, the unity of the party, whether the suspension of Afoko would possibly make it very difficult for Kwabena Japan to work or to perform his duties as General Secretary of the party, considering that he has been seen as an ally of Paul Afoko. We'll take a short break here and we'll be right back to wrap up. Do stay. Welcome back. We have not been able to get the Director of Communications, Nana Komia, to join us in the discussions, but we have our reporter Felix Akoyama, who was at the MPP headquarters. Felix, how are you, sir?
I'm good.
So I know that when you went in, nobody wanted to speak to you and all of that, but what were you informed took place?
Interesting. I mean, what I picked up from our sources within the party goes to suggest that indeed Mr. Kwabena Japan, came, attended the steering committee meeting, but he came apparently to inform them that he had received an injunction, from the court, which is seeking to challenge.
I mean, as General Secretary, any injunction against the party will come to him anyway.
Obviously.
Right.
And so he indicated to them that he received a suit last night, but the committee disregarded what he said. But he also indeed informed them that his lawyers had advised him not to take part in the meeting because of obviously the consequences of going ahead with such a meeting when there is an injunction. But talking to people within, on the committee, for them, this is just an application and the injunction on it has not been heard yet. So they went ahead with the meeting. They went ahead with the meeting, but Mr. Kwabena Japan, headed out. When he was heading out, that was where, there was, some
the heckling,
some members of...
And it was also reported that some of the invisible force rained insults on him, calling him names and all
on
that.
him, and some of them chanting, insulting him and all that. Others saying you shouldn't, try coming back to the party. So it wasn't just his car,
which was... which windscreen was broken, but was his physical person heckled? Was he pushed away or
he wasn't
assaulted or something?
No one assaulted him, but they tried, just heckling him, raining insults on him. For them, they were furious because, 30 respondents, have been, sued in this writ.
Yeah,
and they find it curious that of all the 30 people who've been cited in this, writ, he's the only one who's been able to, receive the suit. Because, for instance, ex-President Kufuor is in there, Freddie Blay, talk of, key other persons in the party.
So that was raising suspicion.
That's what's raising the suspicion.
Whether perhaps he was closer to the whole scheme than it looks.
And for some of them, they are primarily angry because they feel that Mr. Kwabena Japan, has something hidden. He's just trying to push an agenda because if indeed of the 30 people who've been sued, he's the only one who's been able to receive the suit, then for them, it doesn't really add up. And that's why they were, trying to vent their anger on him.
Right, Felix, we are grateful for your time. That was a short narrative of exactly what happened today at the MPP headquarters. I must say that we agreed to speak to Nana Komia, but we're unable to reach him. I reckon that the steering committee could still be within closed-door sessions, as we are informed that the meeting dragged a little while. So the MPP has issued a statement condemning the attack on Kwabena Japan, and the steering committee, according to that statement, has agreed to replace the broken rear screen of Kwabena Japan's vehicles. This is where we draw the curtains. My name is Stephen Enti, and thanks for being with us on today's Big Story. Please enjoy the rest of our programs.